All right, we were hearing a deposition from Gary Rollison. He's the father of one of the victims. Joining me right now is Alan Tuerkheimer, who is a jury consultant, joining me from Chicago. Alan, how are you this afternoon?
Good, thanks.
Good. So really quick, can you tell me what a jury consultant does, just for my own good?
Sure. So a jury consultant looks at the psychological aspects of a trial and helps attorneys with jury selection, getting rid of jurors who are going to be negatively disposed to their case, and making sure that jurors who are seated are going to be fair-minded, and really getting at biases and ascertaining what jurors are going to use to determine evaluate the facts of the case. And then once a jury's seated, jury consultants like me will help craft arguments that resonate with the jury, help witnesses with their presentation, their communication style, and just overall trial strategy from the perspective of what will resonate with the jury.
Okay, that's a very interesting point. We just heard from the father of one of the victims here in Ohio. So how do you actually go about knowing what that trial is about? How do you go about picking a jury for that will feed into and feel the emotions of that father that took the stand? Sure.
So clearly the topic of the death penalty is going to be discussed, or was discussed, and at that point, you really have to listen closely to the words jurors use when they talk about the death penalty, because juror A might say, yeah, I could be in favor of the death penalty if the evidence warranted it, and juror B can say pretty much the same thing, change words here and there, emphasize different words or the order of words in a different way, where they could say pretty much the same thing, but one juror might be much more in favor of or more likely to convict and then render the death penalty. So you really have to have the discussion about the death penalty and hear the words that jurors say and how they say them.
Right. So can you walk me through that? Of course, I've never served on a jury or especially a death penalty case. So when you're having these conversations with the jury, do you actually try at that point to start eliminating jurors that may not be in favor of the death penalty?
Yeah. So in a case like this, actually all death penalty cases, if a juror is extremely leaning one way or the other, they won't end up serving. So if somebody gets on and says, you know what, I just don't believe in the death penalty, it's unfair to poor people, it's unfair to minorities, it's cruel and unusual punishment, whatever the reason, if they say that they just couldn't do it, they're going to be excluded. And then you would have other people in the exact opposite direction excluded, that they're not as likely to articulate a reason, that it's just not as common, because those people will say, yes, I'm very pro-death penalty, too much crime, too many problems, and so yes, I can't see me staying life without parole. Those are the people that'll just basically say, I'm only in favor of the death penalty at all circumstances. Even though there are fewer people like that, they get excluded. So it's the pool of people in the middle that you end up getting on the jury, and then you have to use your strikes to try to get jurors who are either, depending on the side you're on, who are more likely or less likely to render the death penalty.
Right, and I guess it could go either way, of course, those opposing and those in favor. But to your point, if someone says, yes, there's too much crime and everyone should die, I don't know if you'd want that as a potential juror, because they may likely just, have tunnel vision in their decision and the verdict that they reach. We're actually going to take a quick break and come back to more of this. This is the Anthony Kirkland case in Ohio. Again, he was sentenced to death many years ago, but he has a new sentencing hearing in the state of Ohio. Stay tuned right here on the Law and Crime Network. I'll be right back, and so will Alan. You don't want to miss it. Wow, pretty dramatic testimony from Lisa Kinney, the mother of Esme Kinney, one of the victims of Anthony Kirkland. Again, he is already convicted of these murders. He was convicted and sentenced to death. He has a new sentencing hearing to decide whether he should die or serve life in prison. Still with me, Alan Tuerkheimer. Alan, let me ask this, being a jury consultant, now, of course, her mother was not there in the courtroom, hence the deposition. She actually now lives in the state of Washington. But what do you think's going on in the jury's mind? Do you think there may be that one or two jurors that say, hey, if this was my daughter or my spouse or my son, I would actually be here in the courtroom? Do you think that may be going through someone's mind right now?
That's a good point. It probably is going through someone's mind. Of the 12 jurors that are seated, they're probably wondering why. I'm not sure that they're going to attach a conclusion to it. I'm not sure they're going to think that that was mine or she should be there, but there is some disconnect going on. A lot of, and it doesn't have the same type of impact. Now, obviously what she's going through, it's horrendous. I mean, to have her relive this, but there is something to be said for being there right live in the courtroom. So they're certainly wondering about it. I'm not sure that they're considering the reasons for it or going over why, but they are wondering why she's not there live in the courtroom to speak to them directly.
Right, and I think there's another aspect too. As a juror, of course, the jury's been tasked to listen to his 9-hour interview with police. That's 9 hours of audio tape, and now you're actually watching video and listening to audio of a mother. So do you think that juries can get a little tired of just listening to audio and watching video, or would they prefer that person to be live in court? Because that is a lot, 9 hours of listening to audio and then watching this video of this mother. What do you think?
It is a long time. They would certainly prefer to have live witnesses. When I've talked to jurors after trials and I ask them about what they recall and what witnesses stood out, they'll never say that listening to a deposition or watching a deposition was something that they have vivid recollection of. It's always a live witness that got in there or some kind of argument or something to the effect. Now, it's not to minimize the impact that it's going to have. It's going to have a cumulative impact, but there's certainly a lot to be said for listening directly to somebody as a live witness. And like you said, 9 hours is a long time to hear that interview as well. Right.
Let me ask this question. Of course, Anthony Kirkland's already been sentenced to life in prison. So with this new jury now, do you think it's really going to make a difference? There you can see Anthony Kirkland on your screen. Do you really think anything that they hear now is going to make a difference in the last 20 seconds we have left?
You know, probably not. I think a lot of them already made up their minds. They come in with thinking, all right, they know what he did. They know the specific facts of the case. Maybe if there's some on edge or on the border or vacillating between one position or the other, it'll convince them. But at this point, I think a lot of the attitudes about what's going to happen are pretty firmly held by these jurors.
Got it. All right, Alan, I appreciate you. With that perspective, we're going to take a quick break here on the Law&Crime Network and get more testimony in the Anthony Kirkland sentencing hearing. Stay tuned. Okay, that was more of the deposition of Lisa Kinney. Again, she's the mother of Esme Kinney, who is a victim of Anthony Kirkland, who is having a new sentencing hearing right now in the state of Ohio. He was previously sentenced to death, but the Supreme Court did a bombshell, said he gets a new hearing. Still with me is Alan Tuerkheimer. Alan, I noticed a few things in that video. The first being the date on that video. It was June 8th of this year, so it's pretty fresh. So the jury can at least get a sense that this is a recent interview with the mother. And I was listening to that testimony, and I was listening to what she said the police, the first responding officers did when they got there, that basically she's a teenager, she's 13, she could be at her friend's, McDonald's, that's what teens do. And unfortunately, as an ex-police officer, I can tell you a lot of times that is usually the default because mostly teens will just go to their friends or whatever. But this mother knew something was amiss. Do you think that played on the jury, that the mother, she knew her daughter and she knew something was not right here?
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for a mother's intuition, you can call it that, but also we have hindsight. And as you said, most of the time when a call gets placed for this, that the default is to track down an errant or wayward teenager who went somewhere, but this mother was pretty adamant that she knew that that wasn't the case. Now we obviously know that that wasn't the case. So right. I think it's going to give a little increased sympathy to the mother, maybe a little enhanced credibility. But I don't think it's going to be too much of a distraction or any kind of side issue or anything like that. I think that they're going to understand that this is what police do. They know the questions to ask. They've seen patterns before. And it just happens to be, sadly, that the mom was right this time around. Yeah, I don't think it will actually weigh on the jury's decision one way or the other, you know, whether the cops made mistakes there or they were just following their pattern. But what do you think the jury is thinking overall? Do they have the background of this defendant, Anthony Kirkland? Do they know that way back when he was 18, he started killing people? Once he got out, he was killing young girls and women.
in the state of Ohio. Do they have that background?
That's a good question. I don't think they have the entire background. I think that they might have been given some of the, just because they would be wondering, and the last time this happened, it was a prosecutor that made reference to the freebies, I think was the quote he said,
right.
Meaning, what's life going to do? So I would imagine that even if they don't know the entire history, they're going to make some inferences, and it usually gets out. And I don't know the extent of it, but I think that the jury just doesn't think that it's just these two victims that they're evaluating. I believe they know more than that. I just don't know how much.
Right, and I'd be curious to know exactly how much. We're going to switch gears. We actually have a giveaway here at the Law and Crime Network, and who doesn't like free stuff? I know I like free stuff, so we have a giveaway. You can see it there on your screen right now. Go to lawandcrime.com, enter to win the ultimate true crime giveaway. Win 2 tickets to CrimeCon 2019. I went to this past year. It was an awesome experience. Not only that, you get to meet Dan Abrams. Of course, he is the owner of this network. You can see a Dan Abrams production there on your screen. Also, host of Live PD, ABC legal analyst. He's all over the place, just like we all are here at the Law and Crime Network. And there's a lot of other stuff. You get a Kindle loaded up to your Kindle there. So go to lawandcrime.com, enter to win on that giveaway. Unfortunately, I can't do it. I got to pay for myself to go to CrimeCon this year. But hey, one of you guys will win it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back here on the Law and Crime Network with more of the Anthony Kirkland sentencing hearing. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to the Law and Crime Network, still covering the Anthony Kirkland sentencing hearing in Ohio. Again, he was previously convicted of multiple murders of young girls and women in the state of Ohio. He was given the death penalty, but the Supreme Court dropped a bombshell and said he can have a new sentencing hearing. Now he's on that trial right now. We've been hearing testimony from one of the victims' mothers in this case, young Esme. She was 13 years old at that time. Still with me, Alan Tuerkheimer. Alan, we're about to start hearing testimony from one of the officers in this case, Sergeant Jennifer Metch. And in your experience, what weight does the officer's testimony actually play on a juror? Because, again, the officers are the ones investigating these cases.
Right. It's going to bring everything to life for the jury. It's going to bring them, everything's going to seem more vivid to them. They're going to listen to law enforcement, and basically it's going to recreate what happened. So it can be pretty emotional, and it's usually anger in the end, at the end of the day, that fuels an impulse to punish, psychologically speaking. So this is the kind of thing that gets the jury focused off of the emotional impact on the victim's family and more to the heinousness and the horrid crimes that this guy committed. But I think overall, I think Kirkland is supposed to testify, if I'm not mistaken, in the next couple of days. If he chooses to do that, I think that will be really interesting, because at that point he might try to reach out to 1 or 2 jurors, of course, just in the term of his appearance. But when he does that, that might he might have a chance then to change a mind or two. That'll probably have the biggest impact of all the witnesses. But every witness is important, not just for forming opinions, but then when they get back in the deliberation room, you're going to have jurors talking about what they liked, they didn't like, and they're going to reference the testimony of all these witnesses.
Alan, I hate to cut you off. Let's get to testimony from Jennifer Metch, one of the police officers that responded to the scene here. So that was testimony from Sergeant Jennifer Metch of the Cincinnati Police Department. Still with me, Alan Tuerkheimer. Alan, you mentioned earlier that Kirkland is going to take the stand. I know he took the stand during his first sentencing several years back, and I just want to read something really quick, and we expect him to take the stand again. But this is what he said the last time. "I couldn't stop the rage and the anger. I couldn't make the bad Anthony go away." This is what he told the jury. He says, "I could not tell the police why I did it, because I don't know why. They said I'm evil, a monster, and they are right." So if he does take the stand in this case, and he says the exact same things here, which I kind of suspect he will, I mean, do you think any juror there will have any problem giving him another death sentence?
I don't think so. That is their hope, certainly, that there's just one juror that'll say, look, he's coming clean now. Of course, he's coming clean now that he has been the focus of this and he's already been convicted. But one juror might say, you know what, he's coming clean. He's got these demons. I feel bad for him. Yes, he did these horrible things, but he wasn't himself. I don't think it's likely. I think that's got to be their hope. But I don't think it's going to change anything if he says that again.
No, I don't think it's likely either. I mean, this is a guy that at the age of 18, when most people are either getting ready to go to college, off to the military, you name it, you know, still living in their parents' basement, this guy committed his first murder, and he served several years for that. Then he got out and he started doing it again. So I don't think there's going to be any sympathy for Anthony Kirkland here. I could be wrong, but I highly doubt it. Alan, what say you here in the last 20 seconds?
So I agree with everything you just said, and it's going to be tough for the defense. The only thing is that they have this going for them is that you might have a juror that just can't actually put somebody to death by their verdict. Now everything looks like with the momentum they have that it's going to be a death sentence, but maybe a juror is just going to say, I can't live with this for the rest of my life. I have to go life without parole. So that's what the defense is hoping for.
Right. We are going to toss to a quick break. We'll have more of this when we come back on the other side. Again, Anthony Kirkland in the state of Ohio, a death penalty sentencing case. Stay tuned.